And here's the first baby steps of my ping program. I'm just running the stock ping program. Got my hand in front of it now. You can see the distance is way short. And take my hand out of the way. It goes way long. I'm going to be gutting this program. Right now I'm using an almost stock version of the program. I'm going to be gutting everything out and changing it up a little bit so it turns one pin on and off whenever there's something within a certain distance. So anything further than, let's say anything further than 7 feet maybe or so, the pin will be off, and then the pin will turn on. Anything comes closer than that. That's going to be my driveway alarm. So this program is running almost stock right now. The almost part is that my ping device is different than the one the program was written for. Didn't take too much to figure that out though. Basically, I only had to change one little thing here. Well, one thing in 3 different places. My ping device has got 4 legs on it. This program was written for the 3-legged ping device, the older one. It had V+, ground, and signal. And the signal, which they have attached to pin 7 here, was a transmit and a receive, all in the same pin. The newer ping device has got, or at least the ping device that I bought, it's got 4 legs, power and ground, but it also has a ping leg and an echo leg. So I had to separate ping and echo out in this program. Originally they were the same pin, the same command. So all I did was I added a second initialization here. I added echo pin in addition to ping pin. So I just cloned the line above it and put a 4 in there and changed my variable to echo. And then I had to change 2 lines further down. Here's the lines where it's transmitting to the ping pin. And then it's listening to the echo pin down here. And here's where I had to make my other 2 changes, echo pin, echo pin. So it's listening to my other input, which I wired to pin 4. So that's the only thing I had to change up, and it works like a champ. So that's the baby step. The next step will be to simplify this program drastically, and then add an output pin. So I'm going to need one more pin to, tell me whether there's something within, let's say 7 feet or maybe 8 feet. Well, 7 feet should be just about right, actually. So I'm going to add an output pin, which is just going to turn on whenever there's anything closer than 7 feet. The pin will light up. And then I'll know if a car is coming down my driveway. And I'm going to be gutting this program and simplifying it to that point. Simplifying it mostly, and then just adding that one function to that extra pin, because I'm going to try to shrink it all down into that AT mini chip that I showed on the board earlier. And I'll show you again real briefly here. Hopefully autofocus will follow along here. I don't know if you can see that blue LED winking. It's a very short wink, a couple milliseconds. That's on the trigger line to the ping device. The ping line. Here's my Arduino, of course. And this little chip there is the AT Tiny that I'll eventually try to put all this on. When I get everything working the way I want, I'm going to convert it to work into that pin, into that chip. We'll see how it goes. That chip has no outboard clock pins. It's got its own internal clock, which probably isn't going to be as accurate, so I may have to dink with things a little bit to get it all to work right. But hopefully it has enough pins to do what I want to do. and it'll be interesting. I'll have to learn how to program that chip using the Uno and a few wires to the chip to program it. And there's a good demo. There's a couple of demos on that I'm going to try to follow. A minor update on my Ping Arduino project here. I added my trigger to it now, where it'll light up an LED if I get to a certain distance. If I get too close to it. As you see, I'm approaching it. You'll see the green light come on. Okay, here's the serial port printout, so to speak. And if I put my hand in front, you can see I changed the distance. And I added duration to this column, so I can see the actual duration number. Because when I finish this program, I'm going to get rid of the inches and centimeters, and so I wanted to trigger my LED off of a duration, not off of inches or centimeters, because I'm going to strip all that out of the program later. So let me close this down. Okay, into the program, I'm still using the original program with a few modifications. A few more modifications now. I added a variable for my LED, and I added a variable for T range, which is my trigger range for triggering my LED. So anything shorter than that T range is going to turn the green LED on. I may change colors later, but that's what I'm using right now. So I added those two ints. I don't know if you really need the constant, if that really saves you any bytes or anything in compiling or not. I'll have to look that up, because most programs I've seen don't use the const in front of the int. See if there's any kind of real advantage to that or not as far as how it compiles. Because I will be compiling this down to the mini, or the tiny rather. So I'm trying to keep things in mind for that. The next thing I'm going to do also is I'm going to change these pins. This 4 and this 7. I grabbed the 4 out of the air. 7 was what they used originally. I'm going to make these like 1, 2, 3, and these 3 pins. So I'll be ready for the tiny. Actually, I got to look that up on the tiny and see if that's what I want to do. I think that's what I want to do for pins in the tiny, though. Make this more tiny compatible. So basically, that's all I added to it, except for my little test statement to. I added the duration, printout serial. But I also added a test in here. Right here. If duration is smaller than T range, then write to the green LED on, which I could have also written out high instead of 1. Else, digital write to the green LED low. I could have written low instead of 0. So that's it for the program changes for the moment. Okay, so I'm zoomed in on my little Ping project here. You can see that little green LED on the left sticking up above the Ping project. As I approach it, I'm zoomed off quite a distance now, but as I approach it, you'll see it'll trigger green. See it trigger green there. Oops, kind of hard at this distance. I'll walk closer, and you can see it's turning green. Okay, now I have switched the numbers around. Apparently I couldn't use number 1, at least not while I'm using serial data commands in the program still, which I will be stripping. But for now I'm putting them on 2, 3, and 4. And I separated my echo and my ping by the indicator LED pin instead of putting them right next to each other. I don't know if it's going to make any difference or not, but just for good practice. And it's still working just the same way it always worked. I just compiled it and ran it, and it's running right now, and It's running just the same as it did before. So at this point, I'm going to save a version of this program under a new name, because I want to save the program as I had it before. I'm going to save this with the different pins now, which doesn't really make a difference in that respect. Anyway, I want to do save as. But I'm going to start stripping this program, and I want to keep the original program around. So I'm going to leave ping 4 the way it was and start saving this program under a new name. I'm going to call it ping 4 tiny. That sounds good. And now I'm going to try to strip the dickens out of this program and just have it turn that LED on and off from now on. Be my only way of seeing what's going on. Although I'm debating whether to put a second output LED on it. I guess I got to do some pin experiments here. You know, it occurs to me I never did try just simply shorting the echo and trigger pin together at the sensor itself and see if I could use it as a 3-pin unit. You know, maybe I could save a pin, go back to the original program that only used 1 pin, and maybe I could simply short those pins. I didn't try that. I just used 2 separate pins, which seemed more logical. But if I want to shrink this down, that may be one way I can recoup a pin, although I really have enough pins, I believe, the way it sits. I'm going to look this up a little bit and see exactly how many pins I have available for this task. But I'm thinking of putting a second indicator pin. One the way it is at roughly 12 feet, and then one maybe a little further out, or maybe make one at, you know, the equivalent of roughly 14 feet, and the other one roughly the equivalent of 11 feet, you know. So I'd have 2 different sensitivities available on the chip when it's a finished unit. It's not really a good way to do sensitivity, but kind of. So I'm still debating about that.